My father would get in a fight and he'd say to me, "You little bastard, you think I'm telling you what I'm telling you because I want you to be like me? I want you to become yourself." That was the way I grew up.
Hi, it's Jonathan here from Think Smart Education, and I'm so excited to bring you my very, very special guest today, Gerald Celente. Now, Gerald is an American trend forecaster. He's publisher of the Trends Journal, business consultant and author who makes predictions about financial global markets. This guy knows it all. Gerald is from New York and got into politics early in his career. He ran a mayoral campaign in New York and served as executive assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate. This is another guest that has been up to the highest levels. He's been advising some of the top people. And Gerald, I am so excited to have you here today.
And thank you. And thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it.
Gerald, my thing here at Think Smart Education is really to find people who are at the top of their field, who are some of the people that are the best at what they do. I like to sort of peer back behind the curtains and see what's going on behind the scenes, what's going on in their psychology and the way they conduct themselves. And now, Gerald, I know a little bit about your story already, about how you've grown up in the Bronx. You definitely weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You had to deal with all the woes of politics and corrupt politicians and all the crazy things that happen. And so I guess my first question to you is, how did you overcome all that and still make it to the top of your field?
Well, thank you. By the way, you have your ups and downs in life. I'm blessed from the family I came from, my parents, my aunts and uncles. I have all their pictures on the wall, and I thank them every day for what they gave me. And I just try to live with that spirit. And again, life has its ups and downs. And the most important thing is, that, again, I pulled a lot of crap in my life. Are you kidding? But you grow up and you keep learning, and that's the whole process, is to keep learning. And the most important thing is, as I see it as a trend forecaster, I say that opportunity misses those who view the world through the eyes of their profession. If you're just focused on what you're doing in your life, what's important to you, you're not going to see the future. You have to break out of your shell and only look for the facts. And when we write the magazine, we put down all the facts as they're being reported, all the data as is being reported, and then we give our trends analysis and trend forecasts. So we're not skewing the story. So it's very important for people to break out of their shell. There's no favorite. Again, I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in the systems at all. And so if you have a belief system, your mind is already closed. So that's the most important thing. And again, you go through, I used to be on everybody, Oprah, the Today Show, Good Morning America, on and on and on. When I said America would lose the Afghan war and the Iraq war, how dare you say that? I said, well, look, if Alexander the Great couldn't pull it off, if the British couldn't pull off the height of the British Empire into this valley of death, road to 600, if the Russians couldn't do it and they're right next door, what makes you think the Americans are going to do when they haven't won a war since World War II? So what I'm saying is you have to break out of your system and you have to look beyond your profession.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's amazing advice, Gerald. Thank you. So, and it also leads me to my next question for you, which is, there's no secret, there are crazy things happening in the world now. I feel like every second news article is doom and gloom, and you're out there and you're like fighting the good fight and trying to help people and guide them and in everything that you do. But yet at the end of the day, when you're sitting on the couch, you're having your glass of wine, how do you move past it? How do you stay positive and keep a good mindset with everything that's going on?
I try to get in the best shape I can. I mean, every day I work out. I used to have my own school. I taught close combat for many years. And so every day I work out. I try to eat well all the time. And in my office, I have 200, last time I counted, 224 plants that I water and take care of every day. I have art all over. To me, art is the way of finding the true meaning of the human spirit. And by the way, that to me is what could change what's going on. We need a renaissance And when did the Renaissance follow the Black Plague? People got hip to the scene. We're killing ourselves because of the filth and the way we're living. So they went back to the past, alla Romana, alla Antica, in the manner of the Romans and the ancients, to describe the quality of their work. We need a Renaissance. So what I do, I surround myself with beauty. I every day, I surround myself with beauty. And I try to keep lifting my spirits up. I'm down in the sense that, I love music. I love having a good time. Now it's dead. It's dead at night now. 9 o'clock at night, everything's dead. The COVID world changed everything. I'm 15 minutes from Woodstock, New York. I'm in Kingston, New York. 10:30 at night, dead. I used to go listen to music all the time. Like to boogie. As I say, I don't know if it was Jesus, Muhammad, or Buddha, but one of them said, you better boogie before the lights go out because tomorrow is iffy. So I like having a good time, and the good times are gone. So I create my own world, and it makes me very sad. But we could change this with a Renaissance, and to me, that's one of the only things. So create the most beauty that you can. And again, it's up to you to if these little clowns that are running our life could tell us what to do, you could tell them what to do. And it's up to the people to take charge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say to so many people all the time that come up to me and they say, oh, what about this, Jonathan? What about this? What about, this that's happening and the government's doing this and whatever. And I said, you know what the best thing you can do is? The best thing that you can focus on is actually becoming one of the best versions of you, being a positive change in the world, having empathy, caring for others, and bring as many people with you as you can on that journey to success and becoming the very best version of you and affecting that change in the world.
Absolutely. Again, I was a kid, I lived in the Bronx, then we moved up to Yonkers, which social climb to Yonkers. But it was a whole different world. I grew up 1945, right after the war, and I was the youngest of 5. And you were free. I was a little kid. I'll never forget. I came home. I got beat up. My mom crying. My father said, "What's wrong?" I got beat up. You see, don't come home crying. That's the way you grew up. And I was the littlest kid. I became the toughest kid. And it was like I said, my father, when I repeat things, he'd say in Italian, he'd say to me, Papagallo, stop repeating what everybody else is saying and think for yourself. And so I grew up in a way where you were free to be yourself. Nobody told you what to do, and you don't tell anybody else what to do. Simple as that. And I grew up at the best time of America, when, right after the war, when the spirit was the highest and family was fun. And so I'm blessed that, that I grew up like that. And if my mother was a drug addict and I didn't know my father was, you think I'd have a shot? So that's what people have to do. They have to bring the family back. To me, that's the most important thing, so, and cook and make the best things you can have. I mean, I cook every day. I garden. I cook tomato sauce, freeze it for the winter. I try to eat well every day, and I love to cook. It gets my mind off all this ugly crap when I'm making beautiful food.
Yeah, and see, Gerald, I've got a few young children, and I guess, how do we pass this on to the next generation? How do we get back to that and begin to create a new future for us?
Yeah, just the way I said it. And I have friends that are doing it. The wife isn't going to work. She's raising the family. I mean, you're taking a kid, 3 months old, putting him in a daycare center with a bunch of other little kids and feeding him crap. Can't figure out why 42% of Americans are obese, why 70% are overweight. Look at the way they're growing up, eating ultra-processed foods. I wouldn't be me if my mother, may she rest in peace, didn't raise me. And again, they couldn't control me. I ran away from kindergarten at 4.5 years old and crossed the Boston Post Road in the Bronx, which was the major artery between New York and Boston. They took me out of school because they know I'd be dead. Now they'd have me all shut up with drugs. if wasn't raised by my parents, I wouldn't be me. So people have to raise their family and bring back the nuclear family is the way I see it. That's, again, it's been going on only since the beginning of civilization. And now all of a sudden you're putting your kid in a daycare center with a bunch of other kids with the lowest paid employees to take care of the kid. And you're out of your mind as a kid growing up anyway. My father would get in a fight and he'd say to me, "You little bastard, you think I'm telling you what I'm telling you because I want you to be like me? I want you to become yourself." That was the way I grew up.
That to lead on from that, right? When we are bringing this next generation through, and obviously trends forecasting is something that's extremely important to have in the world. To be able to look past all the rubbish that's happening and to be able to hone in and see what is actually going on behind the scenes, what's happened before, what's currently happening, and what's likely to happen in the future. I think that's so important. And so what sort of mindset, do these people coming through, like if you were talking to someone who's coming up in the next generation and you had to pass on to them the mindset it takes to become the top of your field, what would you say to that person?
You got to keep learning. You have to keep learning. Like when I began, I didn't understand the economy. I just kept reading and reading and reading and learning and reading and reading and learning and reading and learning. I never stopped. I read about 6 hours a day. I don't stop. And all I want to see is what's going on in the world. I want to know what's going on. Do people know that 600,000 people in the Tigray region have been killed in the last 2 years in a war in Ethiopia? What's a Tigray? Or how about the Yemen war, where, according to the United Nations, 377,000 people have been killed, and half of them children under 5 years old? Well, what do I care about? What's a Yemen? Is that a new thing that Bill Gates is going to make up? Is it a cross between a lemon and a yeast? They'd have no clue. Why is it important? Well, you have refugee problems now. You have people going into other countries because they're escaping. You have a new world disorder. What does that mean economically? How about all these countries in these underdeveloped emerging markets that are deep in debt, and they're deep in dollar debt, and interest rates are going up and they have to pay more money on their debt? Oh, what's going to happen to those economies when people take to the streets already in protest of lack of basic living standards, government corruption, crime, violence? What does that mean? So it's not only about Tigray, it's not only about Ethiopia, it's not only about Eritrea, it's not only about Sudan, it's not only about Somalia. What are the implications of all that? What does it mean? So that's what you need to do. You have to take a vision of the world. As I said, opportunity misses those who view the world through the eyes of their profession. You got to break out of it. And you have to keep learning. It's nonstop.
Well, thanks, Gerald. You definitely didn't hold back like always. We always appreciate that about you, mate. You always speak your mind and say, exactly what you're thinking, what you're seeing, and some great advice there too. Make sure everyone out there that's watching it, how to be able to pass on the mindset to be able to be the top of your field, to be able to get past all the rubbish that's happening and to become successful. There's many gold nuggets here that you want to make sure that you implement. And look, Gerald, thank you so much for being here with Think Smart Education. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your really busy schedule to chat with me and chat with all of our subscribers. So thank you very much.
And thank you. And thank you for all that you're doing to help the people in so many different ways. And that's what everybody needs. As I said, I look back at my mentors and I say, gee, I wish I was smarter and learned more. And I realize how kind and giving they were. But as a younger guy, you don't know it. So it's a growing up process. The older you get, the wiser you get if you keep learning. And I'm trying to do the best I can to give the best I can.
Great. And again, thank you, Gerald, for being here. We really appreciate it. Look, if you have enjoyed this interview. And if you want to see more like this with people who are highly successful from in all different areas of life and discover how you can sort of model this as well, make sure you like and subscribe this channel. It helps us to be able to bring these experts, bring these high level people to you by you sharing this information and watching our videos. Look, I appreciate you all. Thank you all for joining me here today, and I'll see you on the next video.